I've been quite active as a High Commissioner in this country. Talk about the highlights of your stay here in Kenya. What will you take with you as a memorabilia in your heart and something tangible as well?
I'm actually slightly in denial because although I've only got a couple of weeks left, I do not want to leave this amazing country at all. I think the highlights, they're just so many, from kind of dancing. So when you arrive at a project or something that you've done together with the community, you end up dancing along. So I've been refining my dancing skills, my Kenyan dancing skills, over the last 4 years. I've really enjoyed the strategic partnership that we launched together, both as a formal document to kind of say, hey, here's what we will do together. And that's a real highlight for me. And one of the things I wanted to try and achieve while I was here, and it's part of what you mentioned about the colonial legacy, is move us on to a more equal footing. Because sometimes the language that we use, you know, sort of development partners, well, if someone's giving money to another country to help it develop, that feels like, there's an odd power balance in that relationship.
Sure.
So one of the things I was really keen to do is kind of go, no. We're benefiting from Kenya. Kenya is benefiting from the UK. This is a win-win situation, whether we're talking about trade or whether we're talking about the nurses. So one of the things I'm actually most proud of, and it's still early days to get this going, is the fact that unemployed Kenyan nurses, so not a Kenyan nurse who is looking after Kenyan people, but a Kenyan nurse who is job seeking, is able to go to the UK and work there. Where hopefully they will send money back to their families, so you'll get diaspora remittances. And one of the great things about Kenya is how much Kenyans love their own country. So, you know, I fully expect that a majority of those nurses will come back to Kenya when the jobs are available here, skilled up by having worked for, 3, 4, 5 years rather than being unemployed. And Kenya will benefit as well as the UK.
What are some of the down moments that you remember in your tenure here that will be a learning curve for you as you go into a next appointment?
I think I'm going to have to say the elections. So I tried so hard during the elections to be very neutral, to support institutions and not candidates. But of course, and I knew this was probably going to happen because it had happened to my predecessors as well, is that merely by being the British High Commissioner, your presence is politicised. And my mere existence was politicised in a way that actually wasn't true. So people would say, oh, you're always meeting, one side.
With one side of the political
but actually
divide.
I was also meeting the other.
Yes.
On a very regular basis. And in fact, I said to my teams at one point, look, we need to go and talk to both parties, but we have to do it equally. And we actually ended up cancelling some meetings with Kenya Kwanza because we hadn't managed to pin down the meetings with Azimio. So tried really hard to be neutral. But it got politicised. So I think my learning curve is you can do your best and you can do the right thing, but not everybody will see it that way. And sometimes that hurt, the things that were said about me personally that hurt. But equally, you've got to have a tough skin and just get on with it.
I think when you sit down and you reflect in your own private space, you get an understanding of the nature of the job that you hold and the fact that there will be the naysayers and those ones who will cheer you on. Yeah. But at the end of the day, do you feel like Kenya was one of those places? Because I know you've been to some places in the Middle East. You had a stint in Iraq, and you've had a stellar career in the intelligence sector. Do you think that Kenya was also one of those places where it provided equally a challenge to you as the other places you've been?
I think it did, different types of challenges. So in the places I'd been before, including where I'd been ambassador, it wasn't a regular ambassador job. You didn't get to use all the tools of diplomacy. So one of the reasons why I wanted to come to Kenya, and actually it was the only job I applied for, there were sort of 30 jobs coming up, and I'm like, Kenya's the only one I want. What really attracted me was the fact that it was normal. It wasn't